Hello, everyone. Welcome to AWS Summit ASEAN, and thanks for joining the session for today. My name is Kunarat Osathapirat. You can call me Ken. I'm a developer's solution architect from AWS. So today I'm going to talk about a developer guide for building the modern application on AWS. So what we're going to cover today is current developer tools that AWS offers and its landscape. So you're going to learn the set of tools that we offer and how to use it in certain use case or scenario. And then we will talk about how to streamline your application development in the end-to-end. And after that, we're going to use the future of application development to improve or make it better. So now let's have a look at the nature of the application development today. So normally you're gonna start with authoring your code. So it can be the source code or the infrastructure as a code. And then you're gonna store the code into the source code repository. You may use Git repository, or in the past it's gonna be Subversion. And after that, you may create the CI/CD pipelines or the continuous integration and delivery to build, test, and deploy your application on the platform. And once the application has been deployed, you can monitor your system using logging and monitoring tools. So now let's have a look at the wide spectrum of AWS developer tools. This will be quite a lot, but I will focus only some of them to make it easy for you. So the first one, we can start with the IDE and the development tools. We can use the AWS Cloud 9 on the top left of your site. You can use AWS Cloud 9 to provision an online IDE and start coding on the cloud. And moreover, you can use Cloud 9 instance and share with your teammate. On the other hand, you can use the AWS IDE toolkit, which is gonna be a plugin for your favorite IDEs to start developing your code as well. And if you want to interact with the AWS services within your code, you can use AWS SDK for interacting with the AWS services. And in case you are the front-end web or mobile application developer, you can use Amazon or AWS Amplify in the middle to bootstrap your application development. And after that, you can use AWS Device Farm for testing your mobile application on the cloud. So you can see that this is gonna help you improving your application development experience. And after you deploy your application on the cloud, you can use AWS X-Ray or Amazon CloudWatch to look at the trace, log, and metrics of your application. And these are the ecosystem that you can use. And on top of that, if you want to create your infrastructure rather than clicking manually on AWS console, it is recommended that you can use infrastructure as a code, such as AWS CDK, AWS CloudFormation, AWS SAM for serverless application, and AWS Copilot for provision ECS application. And more than that, you can use AWS Code Series for implementing CI/CD pipeline. So basically, you can use code pipeline to create CI/CD pipeline, and then use code build to execute each step. And at last, AWS provides more flexibility for you to bootstrapping your application development. You can use AWS CodeStar, where you can select application blueprint and start developing your application at ease. And then you can invite your team member to join the project and work together. And recently, we just launched Amazon Code Catalyst, which is gonna provide more flexibility and integration option for you and your team to develop the code or the project easily. And on top of that, we just released the application composer, where you can use the UI to design and develop the serverless application at ease. And the last one is AI and machine learning. You can use Amazon Code Guru to identify the code smell and provide a recommendation with your code, as well as using the Code Whisperer to co-coding with you to help you code more effectively. And these are the ecosystem of the developer tools that AWS offering. So you can see that there are still a number of tools that we offer for the developers to build application from start to the end. And how can we pick the right services for our application development? So now let's have a look at the pipeline again. You can start author your code using Cloud9 or AWS IDE Toolkit, and also use AWS SDK within your code to interact with the AWS services. After that, you can store your code into AWS Code Commit for your code repository. And then you can create the CI/CD pipeline using AWS Code Pipeline, which is going to be triggered once you push the code into Code Commit, and then execute the code build to build, test, and deploy the application into the platform. And after you deploy the application into the platform, you can use AWS X-Ray and AWS CloudWatch to monitor the trace, log, and metrics of your application. And on top of that, this CI/CD pipeline and AWS resources, you can use AWS CloudFormation, AWS Cloud Development Kit, and AWS SAM for provisioning the whole things. So now, let's look at the demo that I'm going to do the demo for today. I'm going to do the demo for creating the serverless application to upload the image on the website, and then the backend gonna extract the image metadata from that image and store the results into the database. So now let's have a look at the high-level architectures. All right, so the web application gonna be deployed on Amazon S3, which is an object storage that we can host static website, and distribute using CloudFront, which is a CDN service from AWS. And once the web application has been loaded into user web browsers, it's gonna make an API call to the backend, to the API gateway and lambdas for generating the precise URL. The precise URL will be used for uploading the image to the top bucket. And once the image has been uploaded into this bucket, it's gonna trigger another Lambda function. This Lambda function is gonna call Amazon Recognition, which is a managed ML service from AWS that provide image recognition services. You can use this service to extract the labels, the text from the image. And once the data has been extracted, we're gonna store the data into the DynamoDB. So these are the architecture that I'm going to do the demo for today. And the infrastructure will be implemented using CDK in Python. So let's have a look at the code. We're gonna start with app.py, which is an entry point for CDK. I'm gonna create the pipeline, the CI/CD pipeline, using the pipeline stack. You can see that this is a Python code, not the scripting language. And when we look at the pipeline stack, at first, I create the repository, which is a code commit repository, and then create the pipeline, the code pipeline, or basically the CI/CD pipeline, and add the code commit repository that I just created earlier as an input. So this is gonna configure the code pipeline to be triggered by this code commit repository, and then execute the required command and initialize the CDK process. And after that, we want to deploy the app or the whole infrastructure to the platform. So we need to add another stage to the pipeline to deploy the app. So if you look at the stage, it's gonna run the serverless image analyzer stack, which is gonna be the whole stack for the infrastructure that I just presented earlier. So you can see the serverless image analyzer stack here. So this is the actual infrastructure as a code in Python using CDK. So at first, we can define the S3 bucket like this. So this is a bucket for uploading the image. You can define the attribute like a name or course rules like this. And you can also define the lambdas function like this. This lambda are gonna be triggered by S3 image upload. And you can set the environment variable like this. So as you can see, this is gonna be really developer friendly. And after that, I create another lambdas for generating the precise URL, and then wire it with the API gateway. And after that, I create another bucket for hosting the static web, deploy the web content to that static web bucket, and configure the cloud front to distribute the web application to the CDN. And at last, we're gonna set the required permission. For example, Lambda can access S3, Lambdas can access DynamoDB, so we can set the permission like this. And at last, we can output our web URL so that we can use this URL for testing. And these are the CDK code that I use for creating the whole infrastructure. So now let's go back and see how it works. So here we can start with executing the CDK deploy, which is gonna translate our CDK code into CloudFormation and then execute the command. So you can see that there are lists of the CloudFormation event that has been executed. And once that is complete, we can verify the results on CloudFormation console by clicking on the CloudFormation. And this is a stack that is just created. And then you can go to the events tab to see how many events has been created or executed. And we can verify the code pipeline here. You can see that the step is failed, right? Because we don't have the source code yet. So right now we're gonna push our code into code commit. So I copy the git remote URL and set the git remote URL here. And then push the code. So now the code pipeline is triggered and start the building process. So what happened is code pipeline gonna verify the code pipeline itself and then mutate the pipeline and then starting the build process. And after the build process complete, we're gonna start the deployment process. And once the deployment process complete, we can test on the web application. If you can remember, I output the web URL as an output of CloudFormation, so we can verify the output from here. So go to the CloudFormation stack again and go to the output. We can open the web URL and start uploading the image. So this one, I upload the Frenchie, and then we can verify the results on DynamoDB. So basically go to the DynamoDB, open the tables, and then explore the tables item. So now you can see the results storing on the DynamoDB. We can see that the label has been extracted with the confidence score. The higher confidence score is the better. And the text on the bottom. So this one you can see Puck is similar to Frenchie with the 55 confidence score. This data extracted from Amazon Recognition. And now we want to make an update to our code. So basically, I'm gonna modify the web application a little by modifying the title, just adding the hello please text before the title. And then commit the code and push the code again. So now, once the code is pushed to the code commit, it's going to trigger the code pipeline again and start the building process. And then deploy the application again. Now we can test our change. Just refresh the page, and you can see that the title has been updated. And that's all for the current stack that we are using normally for building the end-to-end application. You can see that we still have a lot to use and a lot to learn and adopt, right? So there's still some room for improvement. So I would like to introduce the Amazon Code Catalyst, which is going to be the future of application development and the tools that going to help you streamline the application development easier. So from the topic and demo that I presented earlier, you can see that developing application increasingly require a complex orchestration of tool set, technologies, process, and people. So the developer need to spend time setting up and learning how to use it. This is going to take away the time from them to develop the application. They need to set up a new project, right, and then develop the application incrementally, and also managing multiple application environment, which is really challenging, complex, and tedious. So they need the cohesive platform that can work together in one platform. So our approach is to provide a unified software development services for the developers or the builders to start coding, building, testing, and deploying the application at ease. Code Catalyst provides a managed infrastructure that you can use as a platform. It's an all-in-one platform that you can use for developing application and work with your team, tracking the issue, planning, and collaborating with your team. And provide a lot more integration option and flexibility to integrate with the other developer tools as well. So with Code Catalyst, it enables you to accelerate the project setup, automate your daily workflow, automate your environment setup, and fluid collaboration between the team members. So with Code Catalyst, you can spend more time working on software or the features rather than working on project setup, tools, and focus more on collaborating with your team as well. So now with Code Catalyst, you can see that you can still use Cloud9 and AWS IDE Toolkit, as well as AWS SDK for developing your source code. But on the CI/CD pipeline and code repository, you can use Amazon Code Catalyst repository or GitHub repository now as a code repository. And then you can create your CI/CD pipeline using Code Catalyst workflow to streamline your application development. And after that, you can monitor the application using X-Ray or CloudWatch. And on top of that, you can still use AWS CloudFormation, AWS CDK, and AWS SAM for provision your infrastructure as well. So now, I'm going to do the same demo again using the Code Catalyst. So here is my GitHub repository for this project. So now I'm going to use this GitHub repository to create Code Catalyst project for the same use case. So first, we need to set up the remote repository. So now I change my remote repository to the GitHub repository. And then I'm going to switch from code pipeline to the serverless image analyzer stack because we don't need the code pipeline anymore. And after that, we can commit the change and push the code to the GitHub repository. And once we push the code, we can start working on Code Catalyst project. So here is a Code Catalyst console. You can start creating the project. You can either select from blueprint or from scratch. For this one, we're going to use from scratch. Just provide a name and click on the Create Project button. And once the project has been created, you can set up your code repository or create the CI/CD pipeline. At first, we're going to link our GitHub repository with our Code Catalyst project. So I select my GitHub repository and linked it. And after that, I need to create the environment for deploying the application. So this one is going to be dev environment linked to my AWS account. And then after that, we need to create the CI/CD pipeline. So basically, in Code Catalyst, we're going to call it workflow. We need to specify the code repository and then define the workflow. There are two options that you can select. The first one is use the UI with the preview action that you can click and select the action. The other option is to use the YAML file like this. This one, I prepare my YAML script And then we can create and commit the workflow into the Code Catalyst project. And once the workflow has been created, it's going to be executed. You can see that this one is very close to the code pipeline. So it's going to pull the code, run the test step, and then run CDK Bootstrap. And after that, deploy the application to the target platform. And once the application has been deployed, you can test it on web application as well. You can verify the similar output from CloudFormation output, open the web URL, and then test the image upload again. There will be another DynamoDB table because this one is another project created. So click refresh, you can see another table and you can verify the results. It's going to be similar result as previous. All right. And if you want to check it out, the Code Catalyst, this one is in GA today. So you can check out Code Catalyst from codecatalyst.aws to try it. It's still for free now with limited users. And if you want to explore more on the AWS services, you can check out at skillbuilder.aws. This one is a digital, the online center that you can explore more than 600 courses online and hands-on lab online. And then we are really happy to hear your feedback. So that we can improve our summit experience in the futures. And I think that's all for today for me. You can reach me at this email or connect me via LinkedIn. And don't forget to submit the survey. Thank you so much.